Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and start. It's 11 o'clock on the dot. My name is Zoe Parrish, and I am an ITRT for Goochland County for the elementary schools. And today I'm presenting with a teacher that I'm very fortunate to get to work with a lot. This is Nicole Carter. She's a 5th grade teacher at one of our elementary schools. And the keynote speaker this morning was a perfect intro into our presentation today, because she talked a lot about giving students choice and student engagement. And today we're going to be sharing a project with you that we've been working on with our students that gives students a lot of choice. And we've seen that they're very engaged with it. The title of our presentation is New Age Newspapers. Basically, in a nutshell, what we've done is we've taken the traditional school newspaper, but we've digitized it. And for Nicole's 5th grade writing students, we've turned the whole process entirely over to them. Before we start today with the meat of our presentation, we want to make sure that everybody has seen the invitation for the EdTech Virginia Conference. This will be occurring in March this year. It's a conference that they used to have years ago. I went a few years in a row, and it was amazing. It was one of the best conferences I attended for those few years that they had it, and they're now bringing it back. So make sure that you check out this website. Go ahead and write it down and look at the information online. It will be at VSTE in Richmond. So if you're from Central Virginia, it's a perfect location. Before we get started today, we also would like for everybody to complete a survey for us online. We used a website called Kahoot. If you have a device or a computer, we'd like for you to type in this address, or you can scan the QR code. Once you get there, it's going to ask you for an access code, which I'll pull up in just a second. If you don't have a device or a computer, don't worry about it. You will still be able to see the questions as they pop up on the screen, and you can just think about how you would answer them in your head. So I'll give everybody 10 seconds to copy that website or scan the QR code, and then I'll pull up the website so that we can look through the questions together. Yeah.
Did you tell us our code yet?
Okay. No, I have to pull that up. Pull that up in just a moment. I think you can also Google Kahoot, and it will come up. Click on the link for Kahoot it. If you all haven't seen this website before, it's a free website for teachers to use. You can sign up for a username, sign up for an account. It saves all of your quizzes, so you can use them in multiple classes if you teach the same subject a few times a day. It's really easy to enter in questions for your students if you want to do some kind of quick formative assessment or an exit ticket as your students walk out the door. It's very easy to use. The students do not need accounts. They just type in the number for your assessment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Skip over to the website. Okay. I hit the launch button. Oh, hang on 1 second. Sorry. It's going to show you the game pin in just a moment. Okay, enter 64082. And the sooner everybody joins, while everybody's joining, this is a funny video about people reading newspapers from YouTube. They're just showing how distracted people can be by the news, by reading the newspapers. They gave everybody a traditional newspaper to read and offered them a free commute to work and tried to distract them with all of these other crazy things happening in New York City. This will start automatically once everybody has joined and 15 seconds have elapsed. we should be starting in about 7 seconds. Here we go. Oh, somebody else joined, so then it kicks back to 15. Newspapers work. Okay. And if you haven't joined, if you would now, just view the questions up on the screen so that it can go ahead and get started. 2, 1. Oh, somebody else just joined. Well, we'll see the beginning of the video again. Yeah, and it does that just to give everybody in the room a chance to get into
Does it stay
it.
on that green screen that you're in until that opens up for questions?
It stays, yes. Yeah, for you guys it does. Yeah. Must have been a really good newspaper that day. Okay, here we go. You get about 20 seconds to answer each
They
question.
show up on our device.
Yes, they will. Okay, do you have fond memories associated with reading a newspaper when you were young? And you answer yes or no. And then do you have fond memories?
What if you tap too fast?
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. You can't go back, but once everybody has answered, then the answers will appear on the screen. So everybody, it doesn't appear with your name, but you can see what people are answering in the audience. Okay, so 20. Were you ever a part of a school newspaper? Yes. No, but I wanted to. No, I had no interest. Okay, good. We have a good mix there. How do you feel when you receive the latest issue of your alma mater's publication? So if you get a copy of your school's magazine, newsletter. Answers are I look forward to looking through it, or I have no interest. Do you wish you had projects with more authentic audiences for your students? Yay, that's good. Do you ever wish you had magic digital tools to help manage large projects with your students?
Now, did you choose what the bottom said, yes or no?
Okay. I'm sorry?
Does the bottom
Yeah,
say
that's
yes
a
or
good
no?
question. So when you fill out the question, you have limited characters. It's kind of like Twitter. And then you get to decide how many answers to put into the survey. You can do multiple choice questions and quizzes. You have a few different options for it. Now we'll just flip back into the keynote. And I'll hit the play button. Okay. Thank you all for participating. And as we mentioned earlier, today we'll be sharing a project with you that we've been working on with Nicole's students. We aren't presenting this as a packaged idea that everybody can just take back to school with them. If you can, that's awesome. And we'd be so happy to answer any questions that you may have over email or after this session, if you'd like to come up to us to ask either one of us for help or support getting it started. But what the main focus for us was sharing why we decided to start this project this year, and then also the whole idea of incorporating student engagement into your lessons and student choice as well. So when people hear the word newspaper, typically think of that big black and white sheet of paper that comes to your house all rolled up, sometimes in the bag. You unfold it, and I know for me when I was younger, my parents would sit there at the coffee table reading through it, and we'd get to look at the kids' sections and whatnot. And I remember my classroom teachers always having that weekly assignment where you had to bring in a current event. Sometimes you got to share your article and sometimes you didn't, but it was always fun to sit there with my parents and look through and find whatever current event it was that I was going to bring into school to share. I think that it's pretty obvious, everybody knows the statistics. It's the idea that traditional newspapers are not found in households the way that they used to be found. And we've had lots of discussions with our kids. We haven't talked to one student that still gets a newspaper to their house in Nicole's class. And she teaches every fifth grader in this school.
Yeah, so when we started this, I asked them, like, who gets a newspaper? And they kind of all looked at me like, why would we get a newspaper?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it was interesting. They all understood how important it was to be aware of local news and to know what was going on around you. We pulled up a few slides that were collected by a media research group that just show the very quick decline in both funding for advertising in newspapers and also people posting classifieds in newspapers, how quickly the numbers for that have all go down. And actually, Nicole has a friend that works for a newspaper publication in North Carolina.
Yes, she works for a newspaper in North Carolina, and when she started, I don't know like how many people were on the staff or whatever, but it's pretty much cut in half, and everyone's trying to get more into like the PR field rather than newspapers, because they don't really use actual paper newspapers anymore. It's all digital or other form.
So newspapers are something that were a part of our lives growing up, but they're not a part of our students' lives. We thought this was interesting. Fewer than 1 in 8 of New York City's public high schools reported having a newspaper or a print journalism class. So because newspapers are disappearing from our society, they're also disappearing from our schools. At the high school in Goochland County where we teach, they printed a newspaper, a student-produced newspaper, for a long time. But 2 years ago, they stopped. All of the news that the students produce is now published on their morning newscast. It's all video-based. As Nicole and I were talking about project ideas for her writing class and the idea of having a newspaper, we, of course, pulled up Google and did a lot of research online to see exactly how we would start this and what we would do. And we came across a funny quote that he who is without a newspaper is cut off from his species. And Nicole and I were just joking around. Nicole said, it's really he who is without a news source is cut off from his species. And that became one of the foundational ideas of this project, making sure that our students understood the importance of having access to local news and reporting on local news. And we've also read a lot about how the increase in citizen reporters has happened around the world now. When you see videos even on your local news at night, a lot of times it's somebody's iPhone that they've sent into the news station.
Alright, so pretty much the reason why I decided to do this, I teach 3 classes of writing, and we know writing can be kind of blah, boring.
Writing
So
prompts handed to the kids, 5-structure format.
Yeah, you have a rubric, here's a format, do it, that's it. So I just wanted something a little more interesting and a little more authentic for them. And I just remember getting the Richmond Times Dispatch when I was little, and they had like a kids section, and just being like really excited when I got like looking through and being able to like solve the games or answer questions or something. So just being like really excited and wanting them to kind of experience that same excitement that I did when I was younger. And then also, since I'm teaching writing all year long, I wanted it some way for them to be engaged. So I figured this would be easy. They would get to choose what they wrote. They would be able to decide who their partners were going to be. It was all them, and it wasn't me. One thing that we do is like a country fair. So in their social studies class, they learn about the different countries, and the social studies teacher puts on a fair, and they're each responsible for a country, and they have a group. and they do posters and everything. So I tied in the newspaper with the country fair. So getting like, tying in their articles with the newspaper, so then class can see it, like other students in the school can see it as well.
We also wanted the students, the 5th grade students, to be more involved with what was happening in the school and in their community as well, just to have an awareness. And we've had lots of discussions with teachers and administrators over the years about the importance of bringing in nonfiction materials for our students. So we thought, okay, we need to be focusing on nonfiction reading. Why not bring in that focus on nonfiction writing as well? Pull that into her class. We felt like this kind of project would be much more diverse than the typical writing project. In Virginia, if you've taught 5th grade, you know there was that big writing SOL test, and I think lots of people just fell into a cycle of giving a writing prompt that looks similar to what would be on that test and using the same rubric that the kids would be graded on and handing it back. And I taught 5th grade. I taught 5th grade writing for a while. And I used to think that the project ideas I was giving my students were really fun and exciting, because after they did their writing prompt, I'd let them create a keynote or a movie or something that would support whatever it was that they shared. But I realized I wasn't giving them a whole lot of student choice. They still had to follow the format that we were teaching them to write with. So we felt like this kind of project would be more diverse than your typical writing project, because they could pick anything that they wanted to write about. And then this was a huge reason for us additionally to start this project. We wanted to make sure that they had complete ownership over whatever work we were doing with them in class.
So I found this quote in an article, and it's a student quote on engagement. So students are most interested when the curriculum applies to more than just the textbook. The book is there. You can read a book. If we're given projects that expand into other subjects and make us think, it will help us understand the information better and more clearly.
So making sure that the students were going to be engaged was very central to us in planning out this project. And we thought that we'd share with you a little bit about what the students thought of this project. So we asked them, what did you like about being on the school newspaper?
You got to sit.
Oops. You know what? I need to close out of the Kahoot site. That's still playing in the background. Let's forget that. So that and that. Okay, sorry about that. Let's start that one over.
I liked that you got to sit down and get right to the point of the newspaper and write about all the stuff that you needed to write about, and you just wrote down all the facts that you could probably tell about Thanksgiving. You wrote down like dinner, hunting, stuff that you probably maybe family would do for Thanksgiving.
You wrote about Thanksgiving.
Teamwork, and you get to listen to your partner instead of just taking it for yourself.
Because the students get to know what's going on, and it's actually fun watching a student write it and then a student reading it from a student like who wrote the thing, but instead of like an adult who wrote it.
So you like that it's all student produced. The students write it, the students create the pictures and put it together and edit it, and then the students are the ones that read it too. Very cool.
Give us students a chance to work on it by ourselves and not just like have someone do it for us.
That you got to like choose who to work with, since we got to choose partners.
And you most liked working with a partner?
Yeah, because you get like ideas from them and stuff.
What I like about the students' paper is that you could talk about anything.
You got to pick your topic to write about? That was pretty cool. What was the topic you picked?
Veterans Day.
I got to write like about what I wrote about the SCA elections, and it was fun writing about that.
So after each month when we publish the newspaper, we have the students give us a reflection using the virtual learning environment that we use to host and structure out this whole project. we didn't prompt the kids what to say at all. We posted the questions, and then we said, as you guys are thinking about your responses and answering, we're going to pull you down and just record some of your responses. One thing that struck us when we first started pulling and reviewing student reflection was that almost every single one of them mentioned that they love being able to pick their own topic and they love being able to pick a partner. And we heard them say over and over again, we got to choose what we were doing. And I think they have had more fun and been more engaged than I thought they would.
Yeah. Because at the beginning when we told them about it, they were like, do we have to do
Yeah, it was like, oh, another writing project.
Like,
Great.
But I think it's kind of been opposite, like a 360 for them. They realized, oh, this actually is something kind of fun, kind of interesting.
We wanted to talk to you about the tools that we use to structure this project and how we set it up for the kids so that now it's much more in the hands of the students. We use a tool called Schoology. If you haven't heard of it, it's a virtual learning environment. It's made for schools. It's a lot like Edmodo, if you've ever heard of or used Edmodo before. They're both free tools. We have actually purchased the school district account, and we love it. We used Edmodo last year. We loved that, but this is even better.
They have more things that you can do, more tools, more.
Yeah, so many tools for the teacher to use. So we took this as basically like our virtual newspaper staffing office and set up the assignments for the students. So everything that they do with this project, they're going back into Schoology. It's nice because when the students have questions like, I can't remember who the students were that were on the staff this month, or where was the checklist that we're supposed to use, or what do I do with this article? You just send them to Schoology. We have a newspaper group. Every 5th grade student has joined it. They're all a part of it. They receive the updates that we send out, and it's made the management piece of it really nice. We don't manage paper for this at all. Kids don't turn in papers to us. Yeah.
Do kids have email accounts?
All of our students have Google accounts, but we have the email feature turned off. They cannot email. We do actually use Google as one of the tools in this project as well, and we'll explain why. We felt like we couldn't use Schoology for every piece of this because we also wanted it to be very collaborative. The students are picking their partners that they're going to work with. Sometimes it's a group of 2, sometimes it's a group of 3. We needed a tool for them to be able to work together with one another, editing their papers, and just writing the paper together.
That's probably a negative, I would say, for Schoology, for when collabing. Because you can comment on what someone does, but you can't really kind of go back and forth as easily. So I think that helps with Google Drive, because you can just share everything, and someone can comment on this, and then
Students
someone
are doing
else can comment on this.
everything in real time, which is nice. So, to start this project, had an introduction day. Nicole and I created a course in Schoology, which we're going to open up to show to you. We called it the GES newspaper. All the 5th grade students joined it because they'd be accessing the materials in it. And we created a folder for each month. So we couldn't have every student write an article for every month. At the beginning of this, Nicole went through and just broke the kids up into groups. So there were how many students in each month?
There's usually like 12 about. There's like 4. I teach 3 classes, so there's 4 kids pretty much from each class, each month 4 to 5. And then they can go here and click on the different folders for each month, and every month is the same.
Every month is exactly the same. We created the materials in one folder, and we've just copied them over each time. So that was pretty easy, coming up with just the elements that we were going to use and then posting and reposting them as well. The first time that we got kids into this Schoology was a new tool for them as well this year. But we set up September to be a whole group session. So Nicole and I created the September folder. I came in, and every student wrote a little mini article for it. And we walked them through the process of creating their article, and we have asked them to use a writing process. So we have asked them to do an area where they pre-write and write down some of their ideas. Yeah, organizing their thoughts, then moving into the drafting of their article. But since this was a new tool for students, we thought we better show every single one of them how to do it at least one time. We knew that they wouldn't remember perfectly, but at least they'd have a place to go back to where they could see, and hopefully that would jolt their memory. Oh yeah, I remember doing this. I see where I need to submit, kind of thing. So we had them all get into September. After that time, they only had to go to the folder of the month that they were a part of the staff for. Another thing that we love Schoology for is that it lists out due dates for the students. And we can also post updates. This features a lot like Edmodo. So here you can see Nicole has posted updates for the December group, because that's a group that just started a few days ago.
Yes.
Look back on materials. Any questions about how we introduce the project? We'll show you exactly what our assignment pages look like when we get into the body of the work. But the introduction was pretty simple. Nicole and I just met. We talked about what pieces we wanted to have. She created a few things. I created a few things. We uploaded them. That was it. And now we just copy them over each time a new month starts with the click of a button. Okay, so now moving into the body of work. Oh, you can see here in this image in Schoology, Nicole has posted the groups. So if students say, I can't remember when my next month is, just send them here and they go and they can look to see. Okay, so.
And then for the body of work, for like to start off the newspaper, I gave them some ideas for that month that they could kind of write about if they chose. And some of them did. Some of them kind of came up with their own things once they saw my ideas. But it was just kind of to get them started. And that is under the discussion section.
Yes, I'll go ahead and click on that. So we post 2 activities for the students that are a part of the staff. The first one is a discussion section. We tell all students that are a part of the staff that they should click into the discussion section, and we want them to talk about the topics that they've picked so that there aren't multiple articles written about the same topic. Because this actually happened in November, there were tons of kids that wanted to write about Thanksgiving. Well, they'd already seen that a different group picked Thanksgiving, so they had to think of something else. And this is a good place for them to track it. But the students can talk about who their partner is, and then what it is that they want to write about as well. And Nicole posts ideas for students, reminders of things that are happening in the community for that month, so that students, if they can't think of anything, they have an idea bank that they can go to. Once students have picked their partner and their topic, we then created an assignment submission space for them. And we've outlined all the steps for them to follow. This includes a rubric, a grading rubric. When the students submit their work here, we can easily click on it, and then each space in the rubric is clickable, and it gives the students a grade. So this opens up right next to the article, and I can go through and click 4 points, 5 points, 3 points, 4 points. You just click the whole way down, and then the students have their grade.
You can also comment too, so they can see things maybe they needed to fix before you get to this point. So they can always, so you have your comments, and then they can fix it, and then they have this at the end. So hopefully they have everything in Easy 100.
There's also a discussion section in the assignment area for students to talk about what it is that they're working on. Yes?
The rubric, is that a tool within Schoology?
That's actually something that the rubric creation is in Schoology. You can pull straight from Virginia Standards, or you can create your own rubric. We sat down and talked about exactly what it was that we wanted to assess in this project. And so most of these criteria we've entered ourselves, but you can pull the standards right from the Virginia site.
So is there add an insight to this so that when you're going in, you're filling in the rubric that's side by side to their article? Can another student see that rubric or edit that rubric?
The students
So that's
cannot
some
see it
admin.
or edit it. The students can see it in the assignment, and then once we grade it, then they can see what they got in each domain.
But just their own, or can they see everybody?
Just their own.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, they can just see their own. We also created a checklist for the kids. We knew that we needed to lay this out there for them, otherwise we'd be asked a million questions. So Nicole and I sat down and we said, what's every step that we need these kids to follow? So part of the submission process is turning in this checklist. We want to make sure that they've thought through each step in the project. So the students open this up in their Google Drive, they complete it, and submit it with their article. We also provided a template for the students as well. We did that because we weren't exactly sure what we would get. And so here you can see the example template. And this was simple, just a pre-writing section and then the article writing section, and that's it. Okay, so this is just an example of the discussion board one more time where Nicole would post ideas for the students to pick from. Just to review, this is an example of the assignment where we've laid out the steps and the checklist and the rubric for them. It looks like a lot of work, but doing it together, it didn't.
Once you do it once, it's already
It's
there,
done,
so.
yeah. So every month after the first time we put this together has been nice. We go through and we tweak every once in a while, but
After their reflections.
yeah. Then this is an example of what the assignments look like when the students turn them in. So this was an article that 2 students wrote on their Lego robotics team. You can see that if you need to as a teacher, you can download the file, but you can add comments. You can see we added comments over here. I added typically on most articles, both of us add comments.
Unless someone added like a whole bunch.
Yeah, then only one of us will. One really nice thing about Schoology is that you can add an audio or a video comment if you want to. It doesn't have to be all text for students. And then down here, you just click on the different submissions. You get to each article, grade it, it's done, and then we just copy and paste it into the student newspaper. Are there any questions about the body of work and how students go through this process?
Was there a point where they investigated what was in a newspaper or what goes into a newspaper?
Yeah.
I did do that at the beginning before she had come in September.
Okay.
So I did that to kind of introduce newspaper layout, that kind of thing, and what it looked like.
She talked about text structure.
And
The
then
students.
are they printing these newspapers out?
No.
It's actually
digital.
all online.
Okay, so can they comment on the newspaper?
Once it's
Yes.
published.
Yeah. We use Schoology to publish the newspaper as well. Once we have all the articles and we put them into the one template, we take the Google Doc, actually, post it into Schoology, and we send it out to the whole school because all teachers and most grade levels have access to it, so everybody can click on it and read it. We also have done some extra credit for the 5th graders. Say if you finish your article and you have turned in your media for the article, so either a video to go with it or pictures, your extra credit is come up with 2 reading comprehension questions and submit those to us. And then we post those in Schoology as challenge questions for the rest of the students in the school to answer.
Yes.
Okay, the final piece of this, which is perhaps the most important piece in terms of student growth, is the reflection piece of the project, and the keynote speaker talked a lot about that this morning as well, having students reflect on their work. So our reflection is more than just having the students answer questions or a quick classroom discussion. It's pretty multifaceted. We have a student reflection, and then each month Nicole and I talk and have a quick teacher reflection, and so far every month we've tweaked little things.
Yeah. So like the first month we met during lunch, closer to like the end of the month when they were done, or when they were getting finished, closer to finishing, and just kind of talked to them about what they were working on, things having trouble with, so that we could kind of help them put any finishing touches on anything that they needed to.
We actually showed the newspaper staff, we showed them the final newspaper product before we send it out to everybody. We say, let's take a look at this. What do you wish you would have added? What do you really like? And then we put all their responses in a Google Doc, and then we also post to them in Schoology.
And that was one of the reasons too why we actually added the rubric after the October newspaper, because the previous post, like most of their articles were like 3-4 paragraphs, like they were really lengthy, like no pictures, it was just kind of.
They looked like your typical writing prompt,
Yeah.
the things that we do in class all the time. Here's a writing prompt, respond to it.
Yeah.
And we needed their articles to be a little bit more concise, focused, short.
So that it could apply to everybody in the schools, not just 5th grade.
So we gather their reflection on the paper, we put it into a Google Doc, and we have it posted in Schoology so that when we meet with the next staff, we say, this is what the students wanted you to know. What they said they wished you had known before. What they said they wished they knew before they started.
Do you use peer editing?
I'm sorry?
Do you ever use peer editing before you publish it?
Absolutely. That's why they work in partners. So the students write their article in Google Docs, and they're writing it together. And we tell them the way that they choose to write it is up to them. So sometimes you see they've decided to write 2 paragraphs. One partner will write one will write the other. Other times you can see that they're typing it simultaneously at the same time and talking about it as they're doing it. And then they both go through and edit it, and that's one of the requirements. So both students have to go through and add their comments to the Google Doc to it. And we added to the rubric, part of their grade is making changes based on peer editing. Because we found at first we were making comments and their peers were making comments, but
They weren't doing anything.
just let them sit there. Yeah. So now we're teaching them to go back and to make sure that when they see something that's a recommendation, even if they decide not to follow that recommendation, at least they've typed something back in the comment box saying why they decided not to do that. So we've had to add some things to the rubric. But we also had we posted questions in Schoology and had the students just respond there. So we had copy and pasted some stuff from our teacher-student discussion, but then we also let them independently answer some questions as well. And then you can see here, this is just a screenshot of when we posted questions and the students started to respond to them. We have a video of the students from what they said during their student reflections as well. What would you do differently the next time you're on the
Maybe I would add more pictures to my art. I might try to add a little more facts to it, maybe a more descriptive picture of Thanksgiving. I might try to add a little more stuff that gets to the point of Thanksgiving.
Probably add more pictures because we forgot to add them. I would probably change that for taking it for myself and listen to my partner and what they had to think about it.
He said listen to his partner more.
I try to choose a new topic and I make it more juicier, and then maybe have some other students that would think about a better topic for the month. Like if it was like Christmas, I'd have like a box in the room or something and ask them what happened to theirs and my partner's, so I could combine it in also, and it wouldn't just be about ours. So other kids could be like, hey, that was mine.
Oh, so next time you want to interview
Interview other students. We do let the students pick what type of writing they're going to do. They can write a fictional story. We've had students write plays. We had a student do a recipe and poems. For the most part, it's nonfiction reporting, and they'll go out to some community event or a school event and do their expository writing piece, which is really nice to read. Okay, and then for teacher reflection, we just wanted to talk about some of the things that we've decided to change over time. I showed you that there's the calendar in Schoology, and the students get updates of when due dates are. But we realized that wasn't quite enough for our 5th graders learning how to transition into using these digital tools.
Kind of like overload. So I just came up with a calendar and just wrote down on like November, just wrote down all the different dates, like when rough drafts were due, or when we would be meeting like during lunchtime, or when their final stuff was due, so that they could have a visual all like in that one spot.
So really the
And then
bulk
right
of
back
this
door.
is all digital, but we've still had to incorporate the same strategies that the students are used to using. We have that calendar right by the door. As students line up, Nicole can point to it and say, if you're in November,
Don't forget.
yeah, due date for your article submission is tomorrow.
And then we also had to change the length, because when we started, I said 3 paragraphs, that's our goal. And then of course it was way too long once you put everything together.
They were so focused on it
Yeah.
being the same as a typical writing assignment, and that's exactly what we got. We didn't get these short little
Nice little article.
reporting article
Yeah.
features.
So
We
now
got like
they're-
SOL writing test type prompts.
Yeah. So now they're 2 paragraphs minimum, and then they also have to have pictures.
We had to make
Pictures and
media a
photos.
requirement. We found that they focused so much on the writing aspect of it and putting so much into their writing that they ran out of time to submit the media for the project as well. So now that we're trying to make it a focus to have the short feature, then they have more time to put together their media to submit for the paper as well.
And then providing guidance for students that wait until the last minute. So just kind of helping them out, figuring out like what maybe do they need help on, what are they stuck with, do we need to meet with you extra time to kind of help you out. Just making sure we're all on the same page.
And I'm not in there most days, but Nicole will mention if there are students that just can't quite decide on a topic or they haven't been able to get their writing together, and then I can come in to meet with them if for some reason Nicole can't. But we've turned more to using strictly peer revisions. We were going through and editing every single paper, but we've put that so much more on the students now, and we just let them do it. So in the reflection piece, you saw some of the students, most of the students said, I wish I had added more pictures, because we just took the writing exactly as is, put it in the newspaper, showed it to them, and they were all like, oh, that doesn't look like a newspaper. Where are all the pictures? And we were like, exactly. That's the stuff that you need to see to add yourselves. So next time they were all saying, I'm going to add more pictures. And we also now send out more student tips and reminders in Schoology. We got some articles that use the word gonna, G-O-N-N-A, and cuz, C-U-Z-U, just the letter U. So we go through and just we'll put like weekly reminders in Google, like which of these is not a real word? And the kids like to respond to that. So then we'll also just, as we think about it, jump on Schoology. It's as easy as posting a message in Facebook and type the quick reminder to students as well. Okay, so there have been some challenges with this project. It's large, and it's not a lesson that either one of us is teaching each week. It's sort of something that flows and that it's happening in the background all the time.
So one of the big things was each month there's new kids. So at the end of October, we were like, oh, good, we got this. Like, they understand it, great. And then November came, and I'm like, oh, y'all have new kids. Y'all don't know this. So having to like reteach them
And even though we had done the whole group lesson, it's still, they're fifth graders.
They didn't remember.
Takes a few times for them to see something.
Yes.
But we've now just started saying, go find somebody from the October group, find somebody from the November group, have them show you, ask them your question.
And if you still don't understand, then we can help you.
It's definitely a challenge managing a project with a large volume of students, as many of you know. I think that's something that you're constantly fine-tuning and always working on. Having everything digital has helped. If Nicole had to constantly be handing out these papers every time the students had time to work on an article, or if we had these students trying to keep track of their papers as a partnership, this would be something that would be difficult, and we might be pulling out our hair. But these students have shared their articles in Google, so even if one student is absent, it's always there. They can always access it. Somebody can always work on it and edit it.
Did the December kids have access to the reflections and kind of
conversations you were having with the November kids to see the process they went through?
They do, yeah. And we meet with each staff at the beginning of the month, and we go through and we say, let's look at what these November students said in their reflection piece of it. We do feel that students are learning to more efficiently use these new tools as they're completing their work, but that's a challenge. That's a challenge that we're totally good with, because we've learned each year that we've done digital type projects that it's frustrating at first, but once the kids get it, you just feel like you can breathe and everything's just sort of happening out within your classroom without you managing every piece of it and collecting your piles of paper, keeping sticky notes everywhere. It just starts to all work.
I think that's one of the things too that they like about that, because it's them. Like, I don't have to hover over them and tell them, no, you need to be doing this. Like, you know, just student driven, which I think they like, and I do too.
There have been so many rewards to doing this project with our kids. I love watching the students collaborate with their partners. It's funny because in our school we do partner work all the time, but something about this being almost, it's not unstructured because they have the templates and the checklist to use, but we just say you're going to pick your partner, you're going to pick your topic, and you go with it. You see so much more student collaboration among the students and sharing of ideas. And there are issues among partners, and they've worked it out. They work it out every time so far.
And then they learn time and project management skills. You know, they started at the beginning of the month, and then they have to figure out a way, how am I going to get this done by the end of the month with somebody else. So just figuring that out and making them, I don't know, just
They always have this assignment that they're working on. So Nicole has a bunch of different writing projects happening at once. So this is one of those things where if they've finished their research project for their country fair, and then they can work on this with their partner. And their partners don't have to be there with them. We've already mentioned that because they're using Google tools. These students totally have ownership over their writing, and it's completely self-directed. That's been nice. Schoology provides a totally authentic audience for our students. They know each month when they're writing their articles that they're writing them for the rest of the school to see. The other teachers are reading their articles, the principal. They can also, take this home and show it to their parents from their devices as well. We've seen a lot of student creativity in their writing in the articles that they choose. So we've talked about the tools that we use a whole lot, but I just want to review them and answer any questions that you guys might have. One of my favorite new tools is Schoology. It allows teachers to do so much. It is a completely virtual learning environment. Once you have things posted in Schoology, they're there. You can send kids back to them if they need to review directions or assignments or information. It's allowed us to post updates to the students, which has been really nice. At any time from home, one of us can get on and say, hey, December group, your rough drafts are due tomorrow. Do you have your pictures taken? That kind of thing. And the students can write back to us as well. The discussion boards have been really nice because we don't have to host a small group discussion trying to get the kids to pick what their topic is going to be. They do it all virtually. And they do that over the course of probably the first week. We can also track what students are turning in. So we can go to that submission page and see exactly which groups have turned in their articles and who hasn't. It's a nice way to see who's turning in work. Google Docs, there are so many more schools using Google Apps these days than ever before, which is awesome. This has always been one of my most favorite tools to use since we've been using them. But we had to bring this in as an additional element to the project because, as we mentioned before, the students couldn't collaborate on their writing easily, strictly within Schoology. We needed something that they could log into at the same time and be writing at exactly the same time, where they could leave comments for one another and revise their work. So that's why Google Docs are a really important piece of this project. We also like Google Docs because it's so easy for us to see their progress. We don't have to wait until the article is submitted to see it. We see it the whole time. So if it's 2 days before the submission date and one of us just happens to be checking, we can see who's only written a title and who needs to get busy. Yeah, yes.
Are you going to show us what the finished newspaper looks like?
Yep. We are.
Did they help with the formatting of the layout, like of the paper and what it would look like?
We had them pick the template for it. They took a look at that. Yeah. Yep. One of the things that Nicole and I have said is that later in the year, once students understand the process of this, we want to turn it into something. If you're from Richmond, you've maybe seen richmond.com. It's where they take the newspaper articles and post them onto the website, and then there's an open forum from discussion. That's what we'd like to move to next with it, especially with this group. So then literally everything will be taken off of our hands. The students will even be publishing it. So one of us has to send out the link in Schoology, just because we have the capability to share it with everybody. Yeah, and the students don't. But once we move to that format, we're hoping by February we're just going to see if these kids are ready for that yet. Yeah, then that will open it up to a wide audience, and we'll probably use Google Sites for that. Okay. Any questions at all? The background here is what you're seeing is the newspaper, and I'm going to pull up the full newspaper to show you guys. Does anybody in here use Google Docs with their students? A few people. That's good. I'm trying to think. It's going to be in my... Does anybody have any questions about Schoology? Nicole uses it a lot in her classroom. It's not just something that happens when the ITRT is in there. She uses it for her other classes as well. Trying to think. I'm going to pull it up here. I think it's might be this one. Okay. So this is the October version of the newspaper. The line is the icon that we're going to use. That's going to stay in place. One of the students drew that we put in there. So you can see we've got here, one student interviewed the PTA president and got important dates from the PTA. Other students wrote about the state fair when they went to that. This is an article on Lego robotics.
And that's all one.
This is a play. And then the final article, which it looks like it's still loading, was one about homecoming. So it's not very long, but we feel like students in first and second grade, third grade can read this. Yeah. And we do post the comprehension questions for kids as well to answer. Yes?
I apologize if you already explained this, but is there a way that they share this outside of the school environment, like for their parents or families to see it?
All of our parents have access to Schoology, so they can see the newspaper once we post it there. But that's one reason also why we think we want to move to the more visual format of Google Docs. Yeah, so we could share it out to the other schools in the county as well. Yes.
If you were to do that, what would you do about children's privacy? Like their last names, would you just not have them on there?
Yeah, well, we would tell them not to put their last names on there for sure. Here we have their first name and their last initial, but we would either have them probably just do their initials or just do their first name. Yeah. For most of our students, we have permission to post pictures and videos and all of that, but also we spend a lot of time on digital citizenship with our kids, and they know that if they're going to take a picture of somebody else to include in their work, they have to ask permission. So they have to ask that student, can I take a picture of you? Can this be posted? That kind of thing, which is good. Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to add about using it in your writing block?
Not really. I really do think though that the kids really do enjoy doing it. So I'm glad that we decided to run with it. I really do think it's made an impact.
It's been even easier to manage than I thought that it would be, just because everything's online, everything's posted, we can track their work if need be. And the students like writing with one another and not having it be that super structured format of a writing prompt or even a fictional story where we lay out you have to have your setting, beginning, middle, and end. If y'all have any questions, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to talk to you about how we set it up and then share more about the tools as well.